Love doesn't always arrive loudly. Sometimes, it walks into your life in a bright yellow dress and sees what nobody else notices. The billionaire who thought he didn't need people anymore found himself changed by a little black girl who saw the sadness he thought power had buried forever. But before she walked into his office and turned a cold glass tower into something that almost felt like home, there was a mother trying very hard not to fall apart. A woman holding her life together so carefully until everything finally began to break. Hannah Ellis had a system. Wake at 5. Pack Sunny's lunch. Iron her blouse in the hallway. Leave by 7:15. Drop Sunny at Mrs. Patton's. Be at her desk at Hargrove and Associates by 8. Every day. Without deviation. Without complaint. She was 29 minutes into Tuesday when her phone rang and the system collapsed. Hannah, I am so sorry. My sister's been in an accident. I have to leave. Mrs. Patton, her only sitter. Hannah stood in the hallway with the iron still in her hand and looked at Sunny. Sunny was already dressed, gap-toothed, bright-eyed, one red shoe and one yellow shoe, completely unbothered by the discrepancy. Mommy, I'm ready. Hannah closed her eyes for 3 seconds. Then she picked up Sunny's backpack, dropped in an extra coloring book, and said, quietly, like a prayer, "Today we're going to Mommy's office. I need you to be invisible. Do you know what invisible means?" Sunny thought about this with great seriousness. Like a ghost? Exactly like a ghost. Cool. Hargrove and Associates occupied the 32nd floor of a glass tower in downtown Chicago. The kind of building that made you straighten your back just walking through the lobby. Cole Hargrove had designed it that way. He was 38, with gray eyes that people who'd known him before said used to be warm. 3 years ago, his business partner and his fiancée had walked out of this building together, taking his flagship project and each other. He'd read about the award they won for it in Architectural Digest. In this same chair, he had decided with the clarity of someone burned badly enough that the only reliable thing in the world was work. He was reviewing a proposal when he heard it. A shuffling. Then the squeak of leather. Someone climbing into the chair across from his desk. He looked up. She was 5 years old. Natural curls escaping 2 uneven pigtails. A gap between her front teeth. 1 red shoe. 1 yellow. She was studying him with the focused attention of someone conducting a formal assessment. Cole stared at her. She stared back. Then, "You look like a very sad man." Cole set down his pen. He opened his mouth, then closed it again. In 38 years, no one had ever left him quite this completely without a response. He found her mother 11 minutes later. Hannah was at her desk, head down, sketching a client revision with the focus of someone who knew she was already 12 minutes late and could not afford one more thing to go wrong. She didn't notice Cole until his shadow fell across her work. She looked up. Cole Hargrove, standing at her desk, with her daughter. Sunny was holding his hand, which Hannah was fairly certain he had not consented to. He was looking at their joined hands with the expression of a man trying to work out how that had happened. "Mr. Hargrove, my office. Now." She had her explanation ready. "Mrs. Patton, the emergency." The presentation she'd worked 3 weeks on. The fact that there was simply no one else. Cole spoke first. "Company policy. No children in the building. You know this." "I do. My sitter had an emergency. Your daughter walked into my office during a client call. You're off the Meridian project." The room tilted. "Mr. Hargrove, you can collect your... You can't fire my mommy." The voice came from the doorway. Sunny had followed them. She stood with her arms crossed and her mismatched shoes planted wide. Every person in the open office beyond had gone completely still. She always wakes up before the sun. She practices her drawings at night when she thinks I'm asleep, and she never misses anything. Not ever. She walked forward and stopped directly in front of Cole, tipped her head back to look up at him. She is the best at everything, so you should know she can't be fired. Cole looked down at her, then at Hannah, who was standing with her eyes closed, holding herself together by a thread. He looked back at Sunny. Something moved, quietly, without permission. "The Meridian Project," he said, "will proceed as planned." He walked back into his office and closed the door. He stood at the window for a long time and could not explain what had just happened. He didn't fire her. Hannah spent the rest of the day waiting for the second blow that never came. Sunny sat in her corner and was, by some miracle, spectacularly well behaved, moving through the office like a small dignitary, delivering crayon drawings to staff members as persona gifts. She delivered one to Cole's desk while he was in a meeting. When he returned, he found it centered on his keyboard. A tall figure with dark hair and a straight line for a mouth, an arrow pointing at the figure's chest. And beneath it, in the large, careful letters of a child who was very proud of her handwriting, "Empty box." Cole stared at it for a long time. Then he opened his desk drawer and placed it inside. It started with small gestures. Hannah arrived Wednesday to find her worn, broken-armed desk chair had been replaced overnight. No note. No explanation. A week later, she was assigned the Caldwell account, a project that would double her billing hours. Again, nothing said. She didn't ask. She was afraid asking would make it stop. What she didn't know was that Cole was watching, the way she reworked concepts until they were right rather than good enough, the way she talked to clients, warmly and unhurried, the way she sometimes sat very still at her desk, running a private calculation that never quite balanced, and then straightened her back and went back to work anyway. Her daughter had finally called his attention to the diligence of a woman he would naturally not care about. He told himself it was professional interest. Talent assessment. He told himself this for approximately 3 weeks. Sunny came back twice more, both times emergencies. Both times Hannah appeared at her desk, braced for the conversation that would end her, and both times Cole said nothing. Except the second time, looking at Sunny. "There's a conference room at the end of the hall. It has a couch." Sunny looked at him. "Is it comfortable?" "I don't know. I've never sat on it." "Then how do you know it's good enough for me?" A pause. "I'll have someone check." Sunny nodded, apparently satisfied. Hannah watched this exchange with the bewilderment of a woman watching a 5-year-old successfully negotiate with a man no adult had ever negotiated with. The custody papers arrived on a Thursday. Hannah found them inside her apartment door when she got home, Sunny asleep against her shoulder. She read the first page standing in the hallway, still in her coat. By the second page, she had sat down on the floor. Deshaun Ellis. 2 years of silence. No calls, no cards, not a single question about the daughter he'd walked away from. And now that he was engaged to the right woman and needed his life to look put together, now he wanted Sunny. She didn't sleep. She went to work the next morning and held it together until the break room. Then, another crisis broke. 2 colleagues. A conversation they didn't know she could hear. James Whitfield's name. The Caldwell account. And then her concept. Her design language, her 4 late nights, being described in James's confident voice as his own instinct, his own idea, to a senior partner who was nodding with interest. Hannah set down her coffee cup. She walked back to her desk. She pulled up her files. She decided quietly that she would document everything and take it to HR in the morning. The right way. She had always done everything the right way. She went home, put Sunny to bed, exhaled for the first time all day. Then an email arrived at 11:47 p.m. She saw Cole's name and sat up. She opened it. It was a demotion notice, effective immediately. The Caldwell account had been flagged. Proprietary concepts had appeared in a competing firm's pitch. The file logs showed her credentials as the last to access the documents before the leak. She read it once, then again, then a third time, the way you read something when your brain refuses to process what your eyes are seeing. She set the phone face down on the table and sat in the silence of her kitchen, and felt the specific, annihilating weight of being accused of the one thing she had never done. Not once. Not ever. She had not leaked anything. What she didn't know was that Sunny had heard her get up. Sunny had come to her doorway and stood watching her mother read something on her phone, and she had seen what Hannah didn't know she was showing. Not tears. Something worse than tears. The face of a person absorbing a blow they hadn't seen coming. Sunny went back to bed, but she didn't sleep. She lay in the dark and listened. When the kitchen went completely silent, the silence of someone who had stopped moving entirely, Sunny got up. Her mother was still at the table, hands flat on the surface, eyes open, looking at nothing. "Mommy." Hannah turned, and whatever she saw in Sunny's face, the worry in those small, steady eyes, the fact that this child had been lying awake, listening for her, was the thing that finally broke the seal. She didn't make a sound, but her shoulders went down. Sunny crossed the kitchen in 4 steps and climbed into her mother's lap, the way she had when she was 3, folding herself against Hannah's chest with the certainty of a child who knows exactly where she belongs. Hannah wrapped both arms around her and pressed her face into Sunny's curls. "What did your phone say?" "Something that isn't true." Sunny considered this. "Are you going to fix it?" "Yes." "Okay," Sunny said, and stayed exactly where she was. It fixed nothing, having a 5-year-old in your lap at midnight. But Hannah held her daughter and breathed. And somewhere in that breathing the weight shifted from unbearable to something she could carry until morning. She carried it until morning, and then her body, which had been carrying things far longer than that, made a decision without consulting her. She was standing at the kitchen counter making Sunny's breakfast when her vision went white at the edges. She set down the knife. She thought, with strange calm, I should sit down. But she did not make it to the chair. Sunny heard the sound. She was at the breakfast table. She did not call out. She did not wait. She was there in 4 seconds. She was 5 years old and her mother was on the kitchen floor, and she knew 2 things with complete certainty. First, call 911. Second, call him. She gave the address to the dispatcher in a clear, careful voice. The woman on the line told her she was very brave. Sunny said, "Thank you," and asked her to hold on. She found the contact. She had seen her mother save it. She pressed the name. 2 rings. Hargrove. "This is Sunny. My mommy fell down and she won't wake up. I already called 911, but I needed to call you too." Silence. Then, "What's your address, Sunny?" Not a question. Cole arrived at the hospital before he'd processed why he'd run. No jacket. 40-degree Chicago weather. He didn't notice until he was through the doors. He found Sunny in the pediatric waiting area. Pajamas. Feet not reaching the floor. Her mother's phone held in both hands. Someone had put a hospital blanket around her shoulders. She looked up when Cole walked in. Neither of them spoke. Then Cole sat down in the chair beside her. Not crouching, not kneeling, just sitting, the way you sit when you intend to stay. "Is she going to be okay?" The doctor said yes. Exhaustion and stress. Sunny looked at the phone in her hands. She was scared about the papers. "From my daddy." "What papers?" He wants to take me away. Cole went still. Sunny turned to look at him. Her eyes were dry. The eyes of a child who had cried already and was on the other side of it. And you wanted to fire her too. Cole said nothing. I saw her face when she read it. She thought I was sleeping. A pause. She didn't cry. She never cries. But her face went really wrong. Sunny looked back toward the corridor where her mother lay. You did that. You and my daddy. Both of you. Cole absorbed this without defense. Because she was not wrong. Then, quieter. Are you going to help her? The same steady eyes waiting for an answer. Cole looked at her. Yes. Sunny studied him the way she always did. That long interior assessment. Then she leaned sideways and put her head against his arm. Cole sat very still. He did not move for a long time. He arranged everything without being asked. A car for the week. Meals delivered. A family attorney's name and number. The best in Chicago. Passed to Hannah with no elaboration on what it had cost him to make that call. Hannah tried to object. You can object when you're better. She didn't have the energy. She accepted the help with the grace of a woman learning, slowly and against her nature, that accepting care was not the same as surrendering ground. Cole, meanwhile, went back to the office and did what he should have done before he ever sent that letter. He pulled every file log on the Caldwell account, every timestamp, every access record. He spent 4 hours building a timeline he could not argue with. The leak had originated from James Whitfield's credentials, routed through Hannah's login on a day she had been out of the office entirely. It had been deliberate, careful, and it had worked until Cole was looking for it. He sat with that for a long time. He had fired her, demoted her in the language of the letter. Without asking a single question, he had taken a file log and a wound that was 3 years old and made a decision in the dark. The same decision that had cost Marcus and Diana nothing, and had nearly cost Hannah everything. He called James Whitfield into his office that afternoon. The conversation was short. The evidence was not. James Whitfield left the firm before 5 o'clock. Cole called Hannah next. The Caldwell concept was yours. It's being credited to you, with the appropriate compensation. I know, she said. Flat. Not angry. The voice of someone too tired to be angry. I should have investigated before I acted. I didn't. I'm sorry. Silence. Thank you, she said finally. Simple. Unguarded. The first time he'd heard her voice without any armor in it. He held the phone a moment longer than necessary before he said goodbye. The Meridian presentation was the firm's biggest pitch of the quarter. Hannah was recovered enough to work, but not, in Cole's assessment, to manage Sunny at the same time. He said this to her in the hallway with what he believed was a perfectly reasonable tone. I'll take Sunny. You'll… what? The presentation is 4 hours. I'll take Sunny. Mr. Hargrove, you have never… You don't. I've managed offices across 3 cities. I can manage one child for 4 hours. Hannah looked at Sunny. Sunny looked at Cole with the expression of someone not fully convinced, but willing to be entertained. Do you have snacks? I can get snacks. What kind? What kind do you want? Sunny considered this with genuine deliberation. Goldfish. The cheddar ones, not the pretzel ones. Done. Hannah pressed her fingers to her mouth and looked at the ceiling. 1 hour, Sunny announced. I give you 1 hour before you need my mommy back. 4 hours. 2. 3. Deal. She extended her hand. Cole shook it. Hannah made a sound that was not quite a laugh, and not quite a sob, and was possibly both. Sunny was gone in 53 minutes. Cole turned from the window where he'd been on a call. She had been on the conference room floor. She had been there 12 minutes ago. And the floor was empty. Coloring book open. One orange crayon. Her juice box, half finished. He checked every room on the floor. The bathroom. The stairwells. The lobby. Then he pulled the security footage. 2:14 p.m. Sunny walking to the elevator with the purposefulness of a woman with an appointment. Pressing the lobby button. Disappearing behind the closing doors. Cole was in his car in 4 minutes. He found her 4 blocks away. At a toy store. A narrow, brightly lit shop called Wren and Company that sat at the far end of the block below the office building. Its window full of painted wooden figures and one elaborate farmhouse display that had apparently been visible from the 32nd floor conference room on every single one of Sunny's visits. Cole pushed open the door. A bell chimed. The owner. A woman in her 60s with reading glasses on her head and the unruffled expression of someone who had seen everything, looked up and nodded toward the back of the store. She's been here about 40 minutes. She reorganized the farmhouse. I didn't stop her. She has strong opinions about where the animals go. Cole walked to the back. Sunny was on the floor, cross-legged, surrounded by small wooden animals she had arranged with clear intention around a red barn. She placed a horse with the deliberateness of someone executing a plan. She didn't look up immediately. Then, the cow was facing the wrong way. Cole crouched down and looked at her. This child, completely at home on the floor of a toy store, she had walked to alone, 4 city blocks, entirely unbothered by the decade she had just taken off his life. Sunny. She looked up. Read his face. You were scared. Yes. She looked back at the farmhouse. I saw this place from the window. Every time Mommy brought me, I always wanted to go in, but we never had time. You were on the phone. I was very quiet leaving. I know you were. I left the coloring book so you'd know I was coming back. Cole looked at her. The logic of a 5-year-old delivered with complete sincerity. As though a coloring book on the floor was a perfectly reasonable note of reassurance. You cannot walk out alone. Not ever. Do you understand? Sunny met his eyes. I knew where I was going. I didn't. She held his gaze. Then, with the gravity of someone making a genuine concession. Okay. Next time I'll leave a better note. Cole pressed 2 fingers to his forehead and stayed very still. Then he sat down on the floor beside her. He looked at the farmhouse. Which one's missing? Sunny looked up. Surprised, then pleased, the way children are pleased when an adult decides to take something seriously. She handed him a small wooden sheep. He goes here. Cole placed it. Sunny studied it. Adjusted it slightly. Nodded. They sat on the floor of Wren and Company for 20 more minutes. Cole bought the farmhouse when they left. He told himself it was to compensate the owner for her time. Sunny held the bag all the way back and didn't speak for almost a full block. Then, you sat on the floor. Yes, you didn't have to. I know. Another half block of silence. My mommy's going to like you, Sunny said. Settled. Certain. The verdict of someone who has completed a long assessment and arrived at her conclusion. Cole looked straight ahead, but for the first time in a very long time, the straight line of his mouth curved, briefly, privately, toward something that was almost a smile. Deshaun Ellis had not filed for custody because of any matter of serious concern. He had filed because he'd heard about Cole. Not directly. A mutual contact, casual words, nothing dramatic. Just that Hannah seemed to be doing well. That there was a man in the picture. That's all it took. Deshaun had walked away from his daughter without looking back, but the moment another man started looking forward, something territorial and unexamined fired in him. His attorney dressed it up in language that sounded like genuine parental concern. It was not. The deposition was routine, on paper. Hannah's employer was called as a standard discovery witness. Employment stability. Work environment. The questions started professionally and then, gradually, didn't. How often did Mr. Hargrove interact personally with Miss Ellis outside of work hours? Had he been present at the child's medical appointments? Was it standard practice for the CEO to personally refer employees to family attorneys? The implication was deliberate. A vulnerable single mother, a powerful employer, a relationship that looked like either inappropriate dependency or something more compromising. Either reading was designed to damage Hannah. Cole sat through it with the controlled stillness of a man who was very angry and not showing it. He answered every question directly. He did not take the bait, but he walked out of that room and called his attorney before he reached the elevator. I want to testify. Voluntarily. Cole, that's not. Schedule it. He hung up. Then he called Hannah. She was quiet on the line when he told her. The particular quiet of a woman who has spent a lifetime handling things alone and is not sure how to receive someone standing beside her. You don't have to do this, she said. I know. A long pause. Cole. Yeah. Thank you. He held the phone and listened to the quiet on her end for a moment. Don't thank me yet. Win first. The custody hearing was on a Tuesday in March. Hannah wore the gray blazer she'd bought for job interviews. She had her attorney, her files, 3 weeks of documented work hours, parent-teacher notes from Sunny's preschool, and a character statement from her building superintendent. She did not expect Cole to walk in 9 minutes before the hearing began. He was not on any witness list. He had told no one he was coming. He found a seat behind the plaintiff's table, caught her eye across the room, and gave the smallest nod. The nod of a man who has made a decision and intends to see it through. Deshawn's attorney opened aggressively. The incidents. The instability. The CEO who had become inappropriately entangled in his employees' domestic affairs. Cole's attorney stood. My client requests the opportunity to address the court. The judge allowed it. Cole took the stand. He did not perform. He sat the way he always sat, like someone who was exactly where he'd decided to be. Hannah Ellis is the most capable person I have employed in 15 years. She has never once asked for accommodation, never once used her circumstances as an excuse. She has raised her daughter alone, without a partner, without a safety net, and has done it while building a career most people with twice her resources couldn't manage. A pause. The incident cited in this filing occurred because she had no one to call. I am asking this court to understand what that means. Not as an indictment of her character, but as evidence of it. She kept going anyway, every single day. He looked at Hannah across the room. She is not unstable. She is alone. Those are not the same thing. The room was very quiet. Hannah was looking at her hands. The judge ruled 3 weeks later. Primary custody remained with Hannah. Deshawn was granted scheduled visitation contingent on consistent engagement, a condition his attorney privately acknowledged he was unlikely to sustain. Hannah read the ruling alone at her kitchen table. Sunny was asleep. She sat with it for a long time. Then she picked up her phone. He answered on the second ring. Hannah, we won. A beat. I know. My attorney called. You didn't have to do that. The testimony. I know. Silence. The comfortable kind. Cole. Yeah. Sunny really got to you. A long pause. Yes. I guess so. He laughed. Why did you keep the drawing? Hannah asked after a while. What drawing? Sunny told me. She said she drew you a picture, and she checked your desk once, and it was still there. She was very pleased with herself. He was quiet. She wasn't wrong, he said finally. About what it said. Hannah was quiet for a moment. The box isn't empty anymore, she said softly. She could hear him breathe. No, he said. It isn't. He came over on a Sunday. No occasion. No plan. He arrived with cheddar goldfish crackers. The right kind. And Sunny answered the door in full princess regalia and studied him with the gravity of a border agent reviewing documentation. You remembered. I remembered. She stepped back and let him in. Hannah looked up from the kitchen. He was standing in her hallway, jacket on, crackers in hand, looking, for the first time since she'd known him, uncertain, not cold, not controlled, just a man standing at the edge of something he very much wanted not to ruin. She smiled at him. Not a polite smile. The real thing. Unguarded and sudden. The kind that reaches the eyes before the person knows it's happening. Something in Cole's face shifted. Quietly. Permanently. Sunny took him by the hand and pulled him toward the living room, with the authority of someone who has already decided how this story ends. Come on. We're coloring. He sat on the floor for 2 hours. He colored badly, by Sunny's exacting standards, which she communicated with great tact. She sat beside him and improved everything. Hannah watched from the couch with her coffee and felt something she hadn't felt in a very long time. The particular warmth of a home that has enough people in it. At one point, Sunny looked up and said to no one in particular, I fixed his picture. Hannah leaned forward. Sunny had added, in orange crayon, a sun in the corner. 3 figures in front of a house. And inside the figure with the dark hair, right where the chest would be, a small red heart. Cole looked at it for a long moment. Then he looked at Hannah. She looked back. Sunny, satisfied, returned to her own work. She had the air of someone who has done exactly what she came to do. There is a drawing on Cole Hargrove's desk. It has been there for 7 months. His assistant once asked if he'd like her to file it. He said no. She did not ask again. A tall figure, dark hair, a straight line for a mouth, an arrow pointing at the chest, and beneath it, in the large, careful letters of a very proud 5-year-old, empty box. On the back, added later in the same handwriting, not anymore. Cole Hargrove keeps it in the center of his desk. He has never moved it. He never will.